A very warm good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to our viewers. I'm Matthias Ofiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Evening Review show. Tonight, we speak matters related to equality in the country, equitable wealth redistribution, resource allocation. We have in studio for that the president of the Rally of Progress and Democracy, Mr. Mike Kavekotora. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, you don't invite me, so I can't come on my own.
Well, we must make sure that everyone gets a platform.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But nonetheless, you are here again.
Sure.
Sir, last month in Parliament, you delivered a statement relating to various opportunities around equitable wealth distribution and resource allocation around the country. You seem to be unhappy, if what I got from your statement was correct, as far as how resources are being allocated across the country. You seem to be saying that somehow, somewhere, there's a disparity in that regard. Can you maybe just take us through that, and also just for our viewers who didn't have a glimpse of your statement, maybe just what was the gist of the statement?
Thank you very much. It was in actual fact a motion that I tabled in Parliament. It is not a question of me being unhappy. It's a question of the public raising some of these issues. And the issue that was raised by the public that I took upon myself to bring to the floor of Parliament was the issue of the equitable distribution of resources, wealth distribution, opportunities that prevail themselves in the country, how these things are being seen in the eyes of the public when it comes to distribution of this wealth. So after done some investigation, I have come to the conclusion that the concern that was raised by the public is really justifiable, because we don't have a system of distributing wealth. We don't have a system of resource allocation, for that matter. What you see now is that system that evolved is a system that basically is politically oriented. You find that many of the opportunities that prevail themselves and present themselves in the Namibian setup are being allocated from a political perspective. And then my idea was basically to demonstrate to fellow members of Parliament that in the absence of an equitable system in wealth distribution, in resource allocation, Namibia and a huge margin of the Namibian population will be left out. That is why I took some statistics. I went to the projected population distribution among the various regions. And interestingly enough, because many people are saying that if you are not a SWAPO member, or if you are not connected to the ruling party, your chances of benefiting economically and socially will be very much limited. So what I did is to look at the projected population growth, because at the end of the day, the general feeling is that the Oshuambo-speaking Namibians are the beneficiaries of all they are taking the lion's share of everything in this country. So I wanted to match that with the population projection based on the UN 2020 population growth. And it, interestingly enough, the 4O regions, the percentage projected population growth is about 37%. Now, if you are saying that the 4O regions only have 37% of the population, then it basically means that the rest of the country constitute the remaining 63%. Now, if you are allocating resources and 80% or 90% of the resources are being perceived to go to the 4O region in terms of employment opportunities, in terms of tenders, in terms of whatever opportunity, economic opportunity comes up, then there is a disproportionate allocation of resources to the 4O region, or to the Oshoambo-speaking people, or to the politically connected. I just want to give you a background of it's not only an issue that has got to do with tribe, but it's also something that has more to do with politics, because politics is the distributor of all these resources. So from that perspective, you are saying that, but if we continue in this setup, not having a formula on how we distribute wealth, we will reach a tipping point where other people could easily stand up and say, hang on, Namibia is a free country. There was supposed not to be discriminatory practices, but what we are saying is almost a carbon copy of what the South African people were doing. Because I also put in my motion to say that when Germany colonized this country, the benefits, social and economic benefit, accrued to Germans. When the South African Boers took over from Germany, the same applied. They are the ones who benefited more, comparatively speaking, to the detriment of the majority of the people. And you don't want to have a same situation developing, which I think is what is actually currently happening in this country, where you have a minority, so to speak, 37% of the population taking the lion's share of all the resources of this country. That could lead to a civil war, and that's what I'm calling a tipping point in my motivation.
You also spoke of the need to come up with a proportional system as far as resource allocation is concerned. How will a system like that work?
Well, again, I attach percentages to each and every region, just to demonstrate that. Let's take Ohangwena, for instance. I did a study on Ohangwena. Ohangwena has got 12% of the Namibian population projected. But if you look at the budgetary allocation through MTEF, it's a mere 3%. What does it tell you? That is disproportionate to the population. So the formula that I'm suggesting, that luckily also the committee will have to go and interrogate further, is a formula that says that if Ohangwena is constituting 12% of a population, then the resources, the public resources, need to be allocated almost on a similar level, so that at least if Kunene, for instance, where I come from, only constitute 4%, then the budgetary allocation can actually equate to 4%. Ohangwena can equate to 12% because that is the population density in that area. And through such a system, you'll have an equitable distribution of resources. Look at bursaries, for instance. If you don't have a system, it could easily be that those that are politically connected to the ruling party will be the majority in getting NASFAF bursaries and things like that, which also it's going to be detrimental to the other people. So what I'm saying is that I don't have the ultimate formula, but what I'm saying and what has been now given to the committee to continue and interrogate is an issue of saying, how do we ensure equity? Currently we talk about 1,500 jobs up for grabs.
I was actually getting to that because one of your requests was that the country needs an equitable system in the army, police, and correctional services. So maybe explain it. How would it work? Say, for instance, you have 1,000 applicants from the dominant tribe, and there's 1,000 1,100 positions available, or 1,500 in this case. How would you then go about it?
There must be a quota system based on population distribution. If you have 1,000, and let's say for argument's sake, Kunene's population is about 10%, then 100 jobs of that 1,000 should actually be reserved for Kunene.
Yeah.
That will give you an equitable system of distribution of that.
What if there are no applicants from that side?
How could there not be an applicant?
No, I'm just hypothetically saying, because of the system you are proposing, I'm just trying to understand how we could make it work.
Okay. If you talk about unemployment, unemployment is a reality across the board. The current figures are being quoted as 33%. I myself believe that the youth unemployment is up to 40, 50%. Now, you cannot tell me that there is no people in Kunene who've got the necessary competency, who can meet the requirements of the current, system, the recruitment system, who cannot fill up 100 jobs, because it is a proportional requirement. So from that perspective, there's no way you cannot get 100 people from Kunene. But if it so happen that you exhaust all the people who are qualifying for that particular job in Kunene with only 60, that is fine, but at least you have a system to make a comparative analysis of how you have distributed that job opportunity. But in the absence of that, it could easily be that even not a single individual will come from a particular region, because there's no system to distribute this opportunity equally among the Namibian people. And obviously, it is based on even on our constitutional principle. They say that there shouldn't be any discrimination. But how do you wipe out discrimination in a politically oriented system? You need to have another system that could easily make a comparison between what you are saying and what you are actually doing.
Can these two systems actually run parallel?
Which one?
If you say, because you mentioned earlier on also that we have a political system that sort of dictates as far as resource allocation is concerned.
My call is to move away from that, because that has led to the discriminatory practices that we're currently experiencing. So let's move away from that discriminatory practice and have a quota system that will ensure equity in the distribution of resources.
Yeah. So as far as it's concerned, because over the years there's been this issue of trying to build social unity and social cohesion. But we've always heard of the rhetoric, especially from the political circles, things such as, no, we don't want regionalism, we don't look at people along tribal lines or regional lines. How do you then factor that into ensuring that what you are calling for is actually attained?
I think that whole argument was an excuse. It was an excuse to manipulate the system. Because why would you not want to have a fair system? It's very unfortunate. I happen to be a Himba. There's no way that they can run away from that reality. And if I feel discriminated against, I will have to stand up and yell. And if you don't have a system to accommodate me, obviously then your system is discriminatory. And that is why I'm saying, that's why I actually quoted the Constitution, that everybody should be treated equal. And how do you ensure that equity if you don't have a system that provides that equity? And that's my call. My call is to say, let's move away from a so-called job for comrades. You have state-owned enterprises. You have competent Namibians all over the show. Why is it that they are only exclusively coming from one area? You have army generals, and the list can go on and on. So from that perspective, you are saying, I'm actually saying that what we have been doing to date doesn't work. It works in favor of politics, in favor of SWAPO, that is calling the shot. But it's not fair to each and every Namibian. There must be some sort of an equity so that the distribution of resources can be done on an equitable basis.
Mr. Kavekotora, we'll be back after the short break to continue this conversation.
Sure.
To our viewers, we'll be heading for a short break and we'll be back to continue this insightful conversation. Well, let me welcome our viewers back from the short break. Mr. Kavekotora, let's continue our conversation.
Sure.
Just before we went to the break, you brought up the aspect of jobs for comrades. And as far as the public is concerned, when it comes to jobs for comrades, we always think of politicians calling the shots. After all, in the type of system that we have, it ends and begins with politics. After all, you being a politician, how do we manage this concept that obviously is discriminatory? Because if I'm not connected, if I'm not well linked, if I'm not aligned to the right people or systems, I won't get to enjoy my constitutional rights.
Look at the output. The output will tell you whether that job for comrade system work or doesn't. I can tell you the reason why many state-owned enterprises are failing, and many of them are failing, is because of that system, job for comrades. Because you replace competency with who is the person, not looking at what the person is capable of doing. And the end result, the output will be failure of many of the people who are employed on the basis of political alignment and not competency, meritocracy. So I think that is a clear demonstration that the system doesn't work, one. Number two, it does perhaps assist comrades of the ruling party to get jobs. But is the idea of having a state-owned enterprise, was it meant for you just to create jobs for comrades? The answer is no. The idea was for this enterprise to contribute to economic growth, to contribute to service delivery. But if you can't do that simply because you have employed somebody who's not competent to do the job, then obviously you must acknowledge the fact that that system does not work. And this is where we are. Our economy has not been growing since 2016. Well, some people might blame COVID, commodity prices and so on, but we don't look in-house to see what we are doing wrong that is contributing to the lack of economic growth. So what I'm saying, therefore, is that let's do away with it. Yes, it favors SWAPO to win elections and so on, but the idea is not for the ruling party just to continue winning elections simply because they favor their own people. The idea is to grow the economy for the benefit of all Namibians, regardless of their political affiliation.
So what is the role of Parliament in all this? Because as the public, there's only so much the public can do. As political leaders, as legislators, what should we expect from you in this regard? Obviously, you ought to remedy this situation.
What you should expect from us is exactly what we're doing in Parliament. It's exactly what you see here on the table, bringing up motion. But you must also understand the other thing. And I always have this formula of saying that when I point a finger to you, the other three fingers are pointing back to me. What am I saying? You, the voters, have given the ruling party absolute majority to the point that they have become so arrogant to the point where if I come into Parliament and say, colleagues, 1 + 1 is equal to 2, they can easily overpower me and say, no, Mike, you are lying, 1 + 1 is equal to 5. Because some people are sitting there and the only reason why they are is to vote. Nothing more but to vote. Therefore, the system need to be, I'm not saying that the system must change because that is the wishes of the voters. But the voters must also be educated to understand that at the end of the day, when you vote, you must actually interrogate what that person or what that political party is going to deliver to you. And what experience have they gone through? Because, I mean, we have a 32-year experience with the ruling party. Are they doing the right thing? Is service delivery all right? Is equity, the order of the day in Namibia? And if these things doesn't work, don't continue doing the very same thing, because by doing that, you get the very same result. So what I'm saying, therefore, is that we still have a majority in Parliament dominating the outcome of any deliberation. This being dominated by the majority.
But so do you think they are welcoming enough to different ideas
No,
in terms of?
they're not.
Are we there yet as a democracy? Do you think we are there yet as a democracy?
I put another motion in Parliament to say, let assess the relevancy of our democratic institution. Why did I do that? I have observed that, yes, we are a democratic country, but our institutions of democracy, electoral, what is it, ECN, the judiciary, the parliament, the National Assembly, you know, are they really sort of geared up towards an effective democratic system? And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is a no. There's a lot of things that we need to learn. We have committee services, which is the arm of parliament to do certain things. We have the majority of people in those committees are coming from the ruling party. But they come there, obviously not only the ruling party, all of us are coming there. But we're not coming to say that I'm going to join the Committee on Economics because I have an understanding on economics. You join simply because you have to be there. And perhaps also you want to get S&T at the end of the day. So if we are to move toward a prudent economic, a prudent democratic system, we also have to bring in the issue of productivity. What is the output? Because I have to have an input into the committee that I serve. But if I'm just there, just to go to visits and things like that without making a contribution, then obviously it's just as good as me not being there. So what I'm saying is that we need to jack up our level of competency, our level of understanding, so that when we are in Parliament, we add value to what the population is expecting from us.
Just as we begin to wrap up, the issue of resource allocation, do you think it requires a political solution?
Of course, everything in Namibia is being run by politics, unfortunately. You see,
is that why we have this inequitable distribution of resources? Because of politics?
It's because of politics. And I think it's because of a wrong understanding of a wrong culture that evolved in our political dispensation. Why I'm saying that? Successful countries, and we can benchmark with other countries. We have all the resources, all the natural resources in this country, in this world. You take and you make a comparative analysis between ourselves and a country like Singapore that has got nothing. What is the difference? The difference is because they are using their mind. And their mind is also linked to economics. They run the economic system effectively. And then through that, they create wealth. Through that, they reduce unemployment. Through that, they deliver services to the public. Whereas we are based or the majority of our decision on political pronouncements. I can give you a number of examples. We went to China, we bought 5 locomotives. They could not fit on our railway system. They had to be cut as scrap. We had this mass housing. 5-6 years down the line, we still have houses that are half completed, or some of the completed houses are non-occupied because we did not do a market research to find out the affordability level of people in Karasberg, to find out the affordability level of people in Opuo, and things like that. Now you have a $500,000 house collecting dust, being vandalized, because you have not done that, because it's a political pronouncement by the president saying, it's election time, and I want SWAPO to be seen as constructing houses. This is not how you run a country to efficiency and effectiveness. So that is why I'm saying that the problem lies with the political culture that evolved since independence.
Just lastly, sir, your motion, if it gets rejected, what is the way forward then?
The motion was not rejected.
No, I say if it gets and it doesn't get your desired outcome as far as really addressing this monster is concerned, what is your next step?
Okay, let me put it this way. Currently, the motion was pushed to a committee. The committee, I hope that they are independent in thinking, will have to interrogate, because I've listed a number of issues that need further interrogation. If it does not happen, it's
because the SWAPO party that you are bashing here is the one who will still have the final.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. But I think the SWAPO party must also be clever enough to understand that there is, in anything that you do, there's a tipping point.
Yeah.
And if SWAPO reject this motion and want to retain the status quo, then they shouldn't blame anybody else but themselves if we reach that tipping point, whatever that is.
Yeah. Honorable Kavekotora, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you and all the best.
Yeah.
To our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.